What's up with the squad? Back with another video. I seen the title was going down. Make sure y'all hit the like with the subscribe button for me, please. Y'all see it. Let's check it out, y'all.
Vance 3 times by CBS. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz 0.0 fact checks, in case you want to know if there's bias out there or anything. Our Brit Hume called the moderators, Trace, obnoxious in the post-debate coverage, and that's the perfect word to use here. This was journalistic malfeasance because this network, CBS, promised us the moderators were not going to fact check, and then they go ahead and do it anyway. But to his credit, J.D. Vance did push back and fact check the fact check until his mic was cut, of course. A horrible look for the Tiffany Network.
Yeah, Elizabeth Pipko, you're doing double duty for us. Thank you for that. ABC comparing Tim Walz to Joe Biden's debate performance. Watch.
It kind of reminded me of the June 27th debate when Kamala Harris that night said of Joe Biden, it was a slow start, but a strong finish. And that's how I felt that Tim Walz kind of did tonight. You know, to use Tim Walz's own words, I mean, a lot about this debate tonight was weird. There were uncomfortable, cringy moments.
What did you think, Elizabeth, about that comment?
Wow.
Look, I don't think I can come up with anything meaner to say than that Tim Walz reminded you of Joe Biden's debate performance. That was rough. But look, I will say J.D. Vance clearly prevailed tonight, but also the facts prevailed tonight. And also for me, I think Donald Trump's record prevailed tonight, right? Because that's what we saw over the course of the 90-minute debate. Any which way you look at it, Donald Trump's record beats Kamala Harris. There was no way Tim Walz had anything up his sleeve to take that on. J.D. Vance prevailed because of that record. I was proud to see it, and I think everyone that walked away watching this tonight came away with the same response.
And she makes a good point, Joe Concha, because I want to put this up. This is call for number 14, Frank Luntz, the X-Post. He says, at the first commercial break, my VP debate focus group says by a 10-3 margin that J.D. Vance is winning. And then he says that's a big deal since only 5 of them were leaning toward Trump, Vance, when the debate began. And by the way, the final tally ended up 12-2 in favor of J.D. Vance. I'll get both of you to answer this question. You first, Joe.
Well, for J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, this was the first time many voters got to know them. Probably 65 million people were tuning in. So to make that kind of impression, if you're J.D. Vance, well, that's a pretty big deal.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. Elizabeth Pipko, when, you know, you've got some leaners going the other way and all of a sudden they come back this way, you're like, that's a good debate.
It was a great debate, and look, I think that's because J.D. Vance has not been up against Tim Walz this whole time. He's been up against the media's very negative portrayal of him. So I think for him to come out and get to be himself, of course it was going to look better because that's the reality. He is not what the media has painted him out to be. And I'd like to go back to jokes that you and I were making weeks ago about Kamala Harris and how many how many interviews she might do before Election Day. I think now Tim Walz will be hiding in the basement with her. I don't think they're going to allow either one of them out again before November 5th because I think it took the campaign backwards tonight. That's all that it did.
Definitely did.
Yeah,
you had a lot of people.
Trace, I would put J.D. Vance out there.
And especially the comments that he had, you know what I mean? During the debate, the comments that he had, the things that he said, it's a lot of things. That brings to my next video that I'm going to be dropping tonight too. I know y'all like, Recklezz, you dropping? My next video dropped tonight. Y'all going to see. Y'all going to see some stuff. Says here about George, breaking. Even though Chris is blasting the CBS moderators for trying to fact check J.D. Vance, check it out. Look what it says.
Talking at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right, and the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting.
Norah, thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on.
Thank you, Senator.
Facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
She goes and cuts his mic off. That is wild.
The audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
Well, there
J.D. Vance's mic was cut. Tim Walz wasn't talking.
you have it. And look, Vance was right. Okay? There's nuance to it. But the bigger problem is why he was moved on. We've got so much to get to. Says who? You know what I mean? Like, what is the schedule here? So you have a list of topics? That's not what it's about. It's about how the American people can access these two men and the two theories and the narratives, and you got to let them have their speak, because now you created a story where you're the problem. Which
there it is. There it is. Everybody is starting to see the BS that's coming around. Everybody is starting to see it, y'all. Everybody. Let's check out what Scott Jennings had to say.
Vance outclassed Walz tonight. I mean, I was watching this, and all I could think of was, man, Walz is so in over his head. I mean, can you imagine this guy sitting in the White House Situation Room with that facial expression that's like 50% sheer terror and 50% extreme bafflement? I mean, it was amazing.
And that's exactly what I said on the live last night, y'all.
Amazing, the split screen difference between a competent Vance and a totally in over his head Walz. The answer on why he lied about his trips to China and the Tiananmen Square thing was probably the worst VP debate meltdown since Stockdale in '92. You know, who am I and why am I here? It was 2.5 minutes of absolute terrible. For Vance, night of redemption. All the political media has told us that Vance was a terrible pick and Walz was going to bring in all these voters. That charade is now over. Walz does not belong at this level of American politics. Vance does. Final verdict, Tim Walz wandered into the wrong bar tonight.
And there you have it. I'm telling y'all, it's every time. This is on Scott Jennings X. I'm telling y'all, every time. Scott Jennings, fire. He gonna let you know how it is, what it is. Somebody said Vance lost. People are literally just trolls. People are literally trolls.
Now, I kind of walked away with the impression, I guess maybe I felt, maybe this is the reason he doesn't do interviews. He seemed, did it come across as nervous to you?
Honestly, I didn't notice it, man. Adrenaline's going so much. I was nervous. I mean, hell, like I do a lot of these interviews, Sean, but I was nervous. It's the biggest stage of my life. So I didn't focus so much on his demeanor. I just tried to focus on what he was saying. And look, to be fair to Tim Walz, he had a very tough job, and that is to defend the policies of Kamala Harris.
This is a great moment for you to bring that up. Yeah, which he did have a tough job.
He does. And look, it's Kamala Harris has done this. Her policy failures have made food, housing, energy unaffordable. We just need a change in this country. We need to get back to the common sense leadership of Donald Trump. I'm not surprised that Tim couldn't defend that record. Who could? If you put me on that debate stage, I mean, you clearly think I did a good job. I hope that I did a good job. But if you asked me to defend Kamala Harris's record, I'd melt into a puddle because there is no defending what she's done the last 3.5 years.
And that just goes to show you. And I'm gonna be 100 with y'all. Just the way that JD Vance speaks, the way that he's mature about it, respectful about it, just goes to show you his character. Then bash, I'm not about to bash. I'm not about to say, yeah, his demeanor was horrible. We know that. We see that. He's looking at the fact, he does have to defend what Kamala is, her policies and what she's about. That was an amazing answer, and I loved, the way that he came across about that. And it was all respectful. I can definitely give it that this debate was respectful, and I honestly don't see that brings my next video. Tim Walz even, staying in. That's just me. My what I think personally. It says here, this is literally what I wanted to show y'all, because when he said this, it meant a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to other Americans and people that are, struggling. I know a lot of, he says, I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back common sense to this country. And when he said that, it meant a lot to me, because it's like, people are, struggling. We're in a tough time and stuff like that. That right there, when somebody is saying that on stage and, in this debate, and you getting out, oh yeah, well, somebody actually cares. Somebody's actually caring. This is, this right here, this quote, it meant a lot, Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. Stay tuned for the next video drop tonight. Catch y'all next one.